Yes, guys, welcome to the Game Week 6 Deadline live stream. Hope everybody is doing well. Of course, this is a big game week, this one, with a lot of managers looking to triple captain, looking to hit the wild card. It's pretty hectic, to say the least, so I'm expecting there to be a very, very busy chat today. So, of course, let me know where you're tuning in from today. What's the time? Is it the morning? Are you tuning in the afternoon, evening? Let me know in the chat. I can see some people already in there. It's fantastic to see Ollie, Anto, Gordon, Connor. Hope you guys are doing fantastic. Of course, we'll go through the questions as always. But in today's live stream, it's all about the wildcard team. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about, of course, the best transfers, the updates on Haaland, João Pedro, Cole Palmer. We'll talk about whatever you guys effectively want. And, of course, try and get my team locked in ahead of this deadline. Because if you didn't already, my wildcard is active, so I've got to make sure I'm at least getting it semi-locked in by the end of this stream. Otherwise, we're going to be in a little bit of trouble. So let me know, guys, where you are tuning in from on the stream. It'd be great to see. Ollie saying, yes, Nat, you're feeling a bit under the weather today. Hope you're feeling better later on, mate. Everything is good as well. Yeah, not too bad. Under the weather myself. People are going to talk about COVID and all. Hopefully it isn't that, because that would be a disaster. I thought that was a thing in the past, back in 2020. I've got a bit of a benched headache. Covered that one, Ollie, on the WhatsApp. So hopefully that one is sorted for you, mate. I think that one was pretty safe to say. I would go for the choice I mentioned in the chat. And what combination is better? Richarlison and Foden / Saka, or Gyökeres and Xavi Simons / Kudus. So Richarlison is getting a lot of love right now. We had the press conference from, of course, oh my God, Thomas Frank. I'm trying to get used to saying Thomas Frank. I never know whether to say Thomas, whether to say Frank. So we're going to call him Thomas Frank just to get it sorted. So we've got the news that Kolo Muani isn't available, and also Dominic Solanke is not available. So Richarlison's minutes are locked in once again for game week 6. However, it does look like a bit more long-term. Solanke should be back soon, and Kolo Muani is going to be back at some point. So I think Richarlison for the next 2 or 3, fantastic. But I do think you are booking in a transfer for later down the line. So for that reason, I'm always going to go for more of the safer pick, and I'm going to say Gyökeres, and then probably Xavi Simons. But I do think Kudus is just a bit more robust, and we know exactly where he's going to play in that Spurs team. However, I am seeing a few thoughts from Spurs fans that are stating that, you know, Brennan Johnson is still getting minutes at times. He's a goal scorer as opposed to Kudus, who's a bit more of a creator and a ball carrier. And there are going to be games where you're going to want just somebody to put the ball in the net, which Kudus historically hasn't really been that type of player. He's been everything but that. So there are going to be times where Thomas Frank's going to have to put on the goal scorers like a Brennan Johnson. So I think Kudus is better for minutes than Xavi Simons, but I think Xavi Simons is that exciting pick, and I probably would lean towards him as opposed to Kudus myself. Gordon, hey Nacho, I'm on a wildcard and I have the same defenders as you, except for Dan Burn, as I'm 0.2 million short. What other alternatives do you reckon? Do you reckon Anderson? Yes. So if you can't get to Dan Burn, and it's worth noting, Dan Burn is not part of my locked players. I'll show those to you in a minute. But I do think Anderson is just a set and forget long term. The reason why Anderson currently isn't in my draft is because I'm still looking for clean sheets. And personally, with the fixtures coming up, let me try and see which one of my slides has got the fixtures. Here we go. So let me get myself in front of that. In terms of Fulham's fixtures coming up, you can see them here. My eyesight is so bad, I'm going to have to expand it a minute. Jeez Louise, I need to get glasses on. So Aston Villa away, you could 100% play Anderson that game week. Aston Villa have just played Europe. Didn't look impressive once again. Would I be surprised if that's a dull 0-0? 100% not. And I also anticipate Anderson to get defensive contribution. So if you have to play Anderson this week, it's good. Well, it's fine. However, Bournemouth away, you can't be one or the other. People are telling me Bournemouth are great in attack, and Semenyu's the best thing since Mo Salah back in the day. And on the flip side, everyone's telling me that Anderson's incredible. So you can't have it both ways. My assumption is that Bournemouth are going to score in that game. So I think a Fulham clean sheet against Bournemouth's unlikely. Arsenal, a little bit unlikely. Newcastle, a little bit unlikely. But then you come into Wolves, Everton, Sunderland. So I think Anderson, if you want to go for him, just over the next 8 game weeks is just fantastic. And I can't lie, the closer we get to the deadline, and the more I look at that, the more I've got to ask myself, is Anderson just the better pick long term? When we look at Newcastle as an example, because spoiler alert, Dan Burn is currently in my team. But when we look at Newcastle's fixtures, Arsenal obviously is a tough fixture. You won't really want to play him there. Then they got Forest at home, which I think is okay, but it looks like under Ange, Forest are a bit more expansive, a bit more go-getting with their attacking football. Then they got Brighton away. I don't think that'll be a clean sheet. Then they got Fulham, West Ham away, Brentford away, and then Man City. So on the face of it, I actually do think Fulham have as good fixtures of Newcastle, if not better, and they don't have European football. So the more I look at it, the more I think, is Anderson actually just a set and forget as opposed to Burn? So you can't afford Burn, but I'm actually reading this right now thinking maybe I need Anderson as opposed to Burn because I know exactly what I'm getting. So maybe that's a decision that I need to make with my team personally, but we'll come on to my team in a bit. Should I triple captain Haaland? Connor, for me, I think the triple captain on Haaland is just a great pick. So let's get up the official site a minute and we'll go through the fixtures. And this is going to be a bit of context for anybody that still has their triple captain available and is debating it. So when it comes down to triple captaincy, you have to really ask yourself, who would you always captain? Haaland, Mo Salah, Palmer at times, Saka at a stretch, maybe a Bruno Fernandes if you're brave enough. Outside of that, let me know in the comment section if I've missed anybody. I think then we're delving into the territories of captaincy on players that are a little bit unpredictable at times. So naturally, if you're putting a triple captaincy on someone, you do want them to be a penalty taker, ideally a midfielder, but Erling Haaland kind of breaks the mold there, and guaranteed minutes. Those are the three things you really need to look at. So when we consider Erling Haaland this week, the reason why I think if you're not using your wildcard, you should just absolutely do the triple captaincy is a few factors. Burnley at home. I know Burnley have been... Sorry, you can't even see that. Give me a sec. Jeez, this site is so damn bad. Sorry, guys. So hopefully you can see that there. For Haaland. So looking at the fixtures here, you can see Erling Haaland has got Burnley at home. The standout fixture by far. I know Burnley have been okay, but really it's a fixture we expect Man City to get 2 goals in minimum. After that, the fixtures that stand out. Everton at home in 8 is not better than Burnley. Leeds at home in 13, yes, I would argue is on the same par. Then they got Sunderland in 15 and West Ham in 17. So those are the other alternatives for Erling Haaland as your pick. But I've got to ask you, by the time we get there, is Haaland going to be fit? Is there going to be some sort of Champions League thing that happens that means rotation could be on the cards for them? If you take into account this here, the turnaround, Leeds at home, and then 4 days later or 5 days later, they got Fulham. So very much so, and then Sunderland a few days afterwards. So there could be rotation over that period. We know Man City are clicking right now. We know Erling Haaland is on fire. That is why if you're considering Haaland, you do it this week and you get it done. You don't know what is going to happen in the future on those games. Now, in terms of someone like a Mo Salah, right now, I don't think anybody has the confidence to put the triple captaincy on him, but there are going to be times where you can triple captain him. Looking at this, game week 14, Sunderland at home. I think that's a great opportunity. Leeds away doesn't really scream triple captaincy opportunities, and then we're coming into a little bit of an African Cup of Nations period, I believe, around this side. So the only time you're ever going to captain Mo Salah, triple captain him, really is game week 14, and that comes in between a Sunday game against West Ham, Sunderland at home, and then Leeds away on the following Saturday. So that is a tricky period to predict the minutes of Mo Salah in that midweek fixture. So for that reason, I just think if you have the triple captain on Erling Haaland, you get it done and you just get it in place. I think that is a no-brainer for managers that haven't activated their wildcard. And what I'll do right now, guys, is put a poll in the chat to see what actually is going on with people and their chips. So we've got which chip are you using this game week? So we've got triple captain. We've got wildcard, of course. Free hit is a consideration for some. And I'm just going to put no chip because I don't think the bench boost is really a chip that people are doing this week. So let me know in the poll there, guys. What are you doing this week? Are you going for something like a triple captain on Erling Haaland, wildcard, free hit? I think it's going to be very, very close between the two. Steamboat saying, hey Natch, I hope you're well. What do you think about O'Reilly as an option? I know it's obviously a bit of a risk as it's Man City. Yeah, I think O'Reilly is a perfect example of a trap, I'm going to be honest with you. Once Aït-Nouri is back, and I get it, it's 2 months away. So I do think for a short-term pick, it's okay. If we just look at the price point of... Why is he not coming up? O'Reilly, here we go. So he's 4.9 million. A player that, in terms of defensive contributions... Where are defensive? He's got 9 against Arsenal, 9 against Man United, which is not too bad in the 2 starts. So it looks like if anybody's going to get defensive contributions in that team, it probably is going to be Nico O'Reilly, which is quite surprising. So I do think he is one that you could go for over the next 3 weeks. But really, you've got him for these 3. And then you've got Villa, Bournemouth, Liverpool, Newcastle. Not great. And then by the time we get to Leeds, who knows, is Aït-Nouri back by then? And then suddenly you've got a player that you absolutely have to sell in your team. So for that reason, I do think that O'Reilly is a nice differential at 0.5%, but I just don't think it's worth the risk because it is just going to be an inevitable transfer out in your team later down the line. João Pedro injury. So we had the news, if anybody missed it, that he has only been in training yesterday ahead of their game today against Brighton. So it's not really good preparation. It sounds like he's been struggling, whether it's a bit of fatigue or some sort of knock. I spoke about this on a TikTok this morning. I think João Pedro is a really interesting one because I said about this for probably the last week or so. I don't actually think João Pedro is he's a great pick in FPL because he's got guaranteed game time. He's an attacker in a Chelsea team that sometimes do score goals, and he's been incredible value. The problem with João Pedro is I don't think the fixtures are incredible over the next few, especially if we take into account he could be a bit fatigued for this Brighton game. Then they got Liverpool at home. Then they got Nottingham Forest away. Then they come into a nice run afterwards. Cole Palmer being out for Chelsea does not improve João Pedro as a pick. I don't care what anybody says. João Pedro as a number 9 does not make him a better pick. He is better as a 10 in our system as opposed to a 9. So, I don't think João Pedro is incredible as a pick. However, the reasons why you got to keep him. He's 68% owned. So if he does rock up against Brighton and just gets a goal or an assist, it is going to absolutely kill you in terms of overall rank. Secondly, if we take a look at the forwards right now in the game, and you can see him here, and we'll order them by price. João Pedro to Haaland is just a move that I don't think many people are doing. They're probably upgrading someone like an Ollie Watkins, Ekitike, or an Alexander Isak. After that, Isak's not an option in my eyes. Gyökeres is a good pick. João Pedro to Gyökeres, I actually don't mind that. But would you do it this week? You wouldn't, even with the risk of João Pedro. Watkins is not an option. Ekitike suspended. Then we're going into players that are cheaper. Bowen, no. Mateta, tough fixtures coming up. Chris Wood, no. Huge rotation risk. Vissa injured, Havertz injured, Sesko can't hit a barn door, Solanke injured, Voldemada, we don't really know enough about him right now, and it's Arsenal this week. Evan Nielsen, yes, I don't mind Evan Nielsen. Richarlison, good for the short term, and then we're coming into cheap enablers. João Pedro has to stick in your team just because there are no other alternatives right now in the game. Simple as that. That is the only thing really that is keeping João Pedro in my team personally. In a wildcard, I just don't think it's worth me getting rid of him at all. Ludwig saying, wildcarding this week with 2 free transfers going into it. Think it's worth having Donnarumma and transferring him to Raya in the next game week? No. Goalkeeper transfer or free transfer is just not worth it at all. Raya could easily go away against Newcastle. They shut up shop. They walk away over 1-0 because we have to remind ourselves as well. Arsenal are a little bit on pressure. They're a little bit, you know, they beat United, they beat Leeds, and they beat Forest. But they've already lost to Liverpool, and they drew to Man City. Newcastle away. That is a huge game. If they lose against Newcastle and Liverpool win, suddenly there's a big gap that has opened up in the Premier League already. I would not be surprised if Arteta goes away against Newcastle, plays the most defensive system you've ever seen, walks away with a 1-0 win. So for that reason, David Raya, you just keep him in your team. Now, it's an interesting discussion between both Raya and Donnarumma, because I do think there is a bit of a debate here. In terms of a straight shootout between the two, as you can see with the fixtures, there is no competition. Donnarumma is the better goalkeeper this week, 100%. At home against Burnley, Raya on the flip side is away against Newcastle. Playing devil's advocate, I would expect Donnarumma to get 6 points, and that is it. There could be a world where Raya might win 1-0, makes loads of saves, and picks up bonus points. Whereas we know Donnarumma has no chance of that unless he saves a penalty, which, to be honest with you, he probably would save most penalties from what we've seen him in the Italian national team. So I personally think that we're in a position where Donnarumma for game week 6, brilliant. And I would even argue Donnarumma over the next 3, better than Raya. However, we got to look at a goalkeeper as a long-term perspective. This is your keeper that you're keeping beyond game week 19, realistically. You're not making a goalkeeper transfer from your wildcard. And when we look at these fixtures, let's get them up here. Let's compare the two. Arsenal top of the ticker. After this game week, they have got, and let's remind ourselves, West Ham, Fulham, Palace, Burnley, Sunderland, Tottenham. Good long-term fixtures. City, on the other hand, Brentford away, Everton, Villa, Bournemouth, Liverpool, Newcastle away. So I would say they're quite even, but I would say Arsenal are a team that I trust more defensively and are a team that I think will just continue to keep clean sheets from game week 7 onwards. The other argument from a fantasy perspective is Raya or Donnarumma going to block you from having a triple up of attacking players? Because when I look at Arsenal right now, I think there is a chance that we could want triple outfield. Gyökeres, Eze, Saka, Gabriel. Straight away, a few of those could be options. But I would say the same for Man City, if not even more. The reason being, Erling Haaland is 100% in our teams. Reinders is going to be in our teams. What if Phil Foden just becomes incredible and he's a no-brainer and we go for Haaland, Reinders and Foden? Whereas when I look at Arsenal, I'm not completely sold on Gyökeres as a pick, and I'm not completely sold on Saka as a pick. So for that reason, I don't see a world where I'm going to have Gyökeres and Saka. I think the price points are too expensive. I think the price points of Man City attackers are better than that of Arsenal. Hence why I think locking yourself in with double Arsenal defence is better than locking yourself in with triple Man City and Donnarumma as one of those goalkeepers. And I do think there's a chance that you want to sell Gabriel at some point, maybe pivot towards a Liverpool defender when the fixtures get good. If you look at the fixtures here, you can see, if you keep Raya in goal, Liverpool for the next 3, okay. But later on in the season, I actually think there'll be a time where you're going to want to move to them. If I expand the fixture ticker a little bit, and I get rid of, let's go up to game week 16 as an example. You can see here, Liverpool's fixtures from game week 12 onwards are fantastic. Forest, West Ham, Sunderland, Leeds and Brighton. Arsenal's are the exact same, but what I'm trying to say is this. I think Raya and Gabriel is a nice combination, because once you get to that point, if you want to, you could move out Gabriel to a Van Dijk as an example, or somebody else if Kerkez or Frimpong suddenly become actual picks. And then you could still have your Arsenal coverage. If you go for Donnarumma and Gabriel, I don't know how you're going to pivot towards a Liverpool defender, because Donnarumma to Alisson, don't love that. And then, of course, you want to keep your Arsenal defender. So that is why I'm sticking with double Arsenal myself, and I'm just pretty content with it. I think that is kind of enough for a reason for me to stay around on that. Right, let me talk through my wildcard. Let's get into some wildcard stuff, and let's get people voting on this poll as well, guys, if you haven't already. 52% are on wildcard, 34% are on triple captain, 12% no chip, and 3% are on a free hit. Yeah, Jonah, I think triple captain is hugely overrated, can I just say? And also what you need to understand is you're in a position right now where captaincy this week where if you're not triple captaining, and this is a big shout to those who are wildcarding this week, you almost don't want Haaland to deliver because his effective ownership is going to be over 200%. Now, what do I mean by that? If anybody that doesn't know, if you captain a player, of course, then you have got double the amount of points on them. That means that 200% or more is a problem for you, is a big problem, because if you captain somebody, you cannot get those points. You basically don't benefit from it. It's going to negatively impact you. So my prediction, and a lot of predictions on Twitter, are stating that Erling Haaland's effective ownership, when you take into account captaincy and triple captaincy, because of course that increases his threshold to 300%, we're in a position where his effective ownership might be something like 210%. And that means if you captained him, that 10% above is going to negatively impact your overall rank, which means any return that he delivers is going to lead towards a red arrow as opposed to a green arrow. So for those that have wildcarded this week, just be warned. If Haaland gets a hat-trick, that is not good for you. If you're triple captaining this week, you want everything, of course. So yes, just be cautious of that, guys, in that scenario. So let's get into my team. And of course, if you guys haven't already, it'd be awesome if you guys could obviously hit that subscribe button. We're trying to hit 23k before the end of the year, the actual 2025 year. I'm a long way off. But if you guys have enjoyed the content this week, this season so far, you're enjoying this stream, or you just are random, you just want to support a guy, massively appreciated. If you could, thank you so much. So let's get into it right now. I've got to put a bit of Vaseline on the old lips because it's the cold season, and oh my God, my lips just absolutely chap up. I don't know what it is, but you got to keep them fresh. So I do apologize if my lips are looking blue steel, almost glowing. It's because I've got Vaseline on. I do apologize. I'm not like I'm not the most glossy man in the world, and you're just suddenly discovering that now. So let's get into my team. Let's get into this team, and it's the same as what I posted on my video recently, but couple of caveats. Firstly, this is a really interesting week this week for Wildcard, because naturally when you do content like this, you realize from the comments on videos that there's a template. And on Twitter, I've seen the same template doing the rounds. There's a reason for it. Goalkeeper-wise, there's only a small pool of players to choose from. Defensively, we know that defensive contributions have basically obliterated all attacking fullbacks. And I would make the argument that attacking fullbacks are not really existing right now in the game, which is a real shame. I look at all of the top clubs, there aren't really any to choose from. So defensive contribution players are naturally being targeted. Take Bournemouth, for example. The only pick you're having is Senesi, whereas last season it could have been Senesi or Kirkes if you wanted to. We don't have that deliberation now this year. Chosen midfielders. Again, there's a pool of players that kind of select themselves as to the forwards. We discussed the forwards earlier. When I actually put a list of them, can anybody honestly make a compelling case for the following players? Isak. I think he's a huge rotation. Not a huge rotation risk, but he's too expensive for a guy who Slot has come out and said he can't play 90 minutes. Ekitike suspended. Watkins can't score. Bowen, playing for one of the worst teams in the league right now. Mateta against Liverpool. Wood, huge rotation risk. We saw that in Europa League. Vissa injured. Havertz injured. Sesko plays for Man United. Solanke injured. Voldemada has Arsenal. Evan Nielsen, good. I don't mind Evan Nielsen as a pick. Kolomwani injured. Richarlison, really good short term, but a transfer waiting to happen. Jesus, forgot about him. Strand Larsen has come out, and we've seen his fitness is not good enough for 90 minutes. You can see what I mean in here. It's a real shame that Game Week 6 wildcard is coming to this, but unfortunately, the teams are selecting themselves right now. The teams are selecting themselves. So, Giovanni saying Haaland is at 48%. Giovanni, I'm going to be honest, I'm pretty thick in real life. And I may have got that completely wrong with the triple captaincy, but I did see something. Let me just check for you a minute, because I also don't want to say you're wrong. I don't want to say I'm wrong, because both of us might be wrong. So Live FPL put this up. Anyone check it out. They basically do all of the models and stuff that we use for checking predicted ranks, effective ownership. So they've tweeted and said, okay, so we are likely to see Haaland above 200% effective ownership in many ranked tiers this game week. Which means even if you captain him, his points won't help your rank. So effective ownership equals ownership accounted for captaincy plus benching. If everyone owns and starts a player, but nobody captains, 100% effective ownership, effectively all own one version of the player. If you captain him, it's 200%. If you captain him, it's 300%. So yeah, It looks like I don't get the maths. I would ask you to maybe ask someone smarter than me, but it does look like his effective ownership will exceed 200% this week, which means any returns are going to hinder our actual points. So getting back to my wildcard right now. One big factor that we need to remember is that bench boost is still an option for me. So I have to consider the bench boost chip. Other people used it last week, so they have to build a wildcard team not to be built for a bench boost. I'm in a different scenario and I want to try and get it done in game weeks 8 or game weeks 9. So in terms of players that are just locked in for me right now, they're going to include David Raya, Gabriel, Senesi. That's it in terms of the goalkeepers and defenders. I know that's weird saying with less than 2 hours until the deadline, but that's where I'm currently at. Semenyo, Bruno Fernandes and Reinders are in. Haaland and João Pedro up top. Again, as I said, I'm less bullish on João Pedro as others, but I just don't think there are other forwards available in the game, and I've built up okay value in him as a pick. And then Dubravka between the sticks, because he is fantastic for a bench boost. If you look at his fixtures here, game week 8, Leeds at home, game week 9, Wolves away. So I'm laughing. The bench boost in either of those 2 game weeks, I am perfectly content with. So really, there is 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 6 positions up for grabs. And it looks a lot, but there's only a small pool of players that I'm looking to select from. So this is where I'm currently at as of yesterday. But it's worth noting that I've taken in some content regarding just football in general, as opposed to from an FPL skew. The reason why I've done that is someone like a Xavi Simons. Now, we don't have loads of data on Xavi Simons, so me just looking at his FPL record is absolutely useless. So try to listen into a bit of Spurs kind of actual fans' thought on Xavi Simons, and this is what I've kind of understood. Xavi Simons is their best creator by far. He's on set pieces, not all of them. Kudus takes it from the other side, but Xavi Simons has now taken responsibility of that from Pedro Porro. That makes Pedro Porro just not an option, by the way, at all. So Xavi Simons is taking up a creative role in this team. However, we were anticipating him to play in the number 10 role, and I think even Thomas Frank was. But with them in a position where their left wingers are not actually that great, they have got people like Odebear, still young. Mateus Tell is just not looking like the player we were anticipating him to be. Obviously, they've sold Son, so the options out there are a bit more limited. Xavi Simons right now is so important to them that it almost feels like with no creativity or options on the left, they're having to almost put him on the left-hand side, because they do have options in the 10 if they want to, in a very different profile, in the shape of someone like a Bergval or a Pap Sarr, who we saw in pre-season rack up some of the goals. So prior to hearing that, I was all in on Xavi Simons. However, if he plays on the left-hand side, I am less inclined to want to own him. I'm going to be honest with you. I love him as a pick because with the fixtures coming up, I think he allows me to bench boost in game week 8 or game week 9, and the fixtures are good. But I do want to caveat this by saying that I'm less bullish on him as a pick because of what I have seen and read from Spurs fans about Xavi Simons. He is their best creator. He arguably could become their best player, but if he remains on the left-hand side as opposed to the 10, which I think could happen over the next few weeks, we are getting a watered-down version of what Xavi Simons could actually be. If there are Spurs fans in the chat, please do let me know. Now, of course, the other factor that we have to take into consideration is going to be the Champions League. It just has to be a consideration when we're looking at players over this period. So let me bring it up on your screens here. These are the Spurs fixtures outside of what you're just seeing on the FPL app. So they got Wolves at home. We're fully expecting Xavi Simons to start that game, whether it be on the left wing or in the 10. Once again, Spurs fans, do let me know. But I'm anticipating it to be on that left-hand side. Then, 3 days later, they have got Bodo Glimt away in the Champions League, a fixture that really, if you want to do well in the Champions League, they've done well in match day 1, they got to get this win here because tougher fixtures are going to come for them. So they're going to play a strong team against Bodo Glimt. Then they got Leeds away on the Saturday. Again, if you're investing in Champions League teams, which we all are in most of our wildcard picks, you are going to contend with this. But I do think Spurs' squad is a little bit thin at times. So then they got Leeds away. followed by Aston Villa at home, which actually doesn't look too bad. And of course, that is after the international break. Then they got Monaco 3 days later. Then they've got Everton away 4 days after that. So my major concern is this. How important is Xavi Simons to them? Because if that's the case, I think Xavi Simons becomes a bit of a minutes risk over this period. I think he starts Wolves 75 minutes. I think he starts that Bodo Glimt game, which then negatively impacts the Leeds game before we go to the international break. So, I love Xavi Simons. I want him in my team. But I think there could be options out there that allow me to be a bit more long-term with my picks. So I don't want to be template. I really don't, because I know someone like an Ndai is very, very, very template. But I'm just a little bit worried about him going forward. Giovanni saying Monaco is an easy game, which, yes, that's fair. That's fair. That could be an easy game. But I don't think Everton away is an easy game. And that really is the one that we're looking at for us. Just seeing what Ludwig is saying. Xavi Simons in the left, still drifts into the middle though, coming from a Spurs fan. Ludwig, thank you very much. Ludwig, let me know, as a Spurs fan, let me know if you're a avid watcher. What are your thoughts on Xavi Simons? Do you think he's a good investment or not? Of course, very hard. Xavi Simons should start 10 from now on if Thomas Frank isn't brain dead. Yes, I think we all want him to play in the 10, but me wanting him to play in the 10 and us wanting to play in the 10, sadly, doesn't mean he plays there, unfortunately. So, while hopefully some Spurs fans might be letting me know in the chat the thoughts on Xavi Simons, let's be honest here. Let's be completely honest here. If I sell Xavi Simons, we're going down boring route. We're going down the boring route. Just a heads up, the bank balance available to me is wrong. Plan FPL is fantastic, but one thing I haven't realised how to do yet, please let me know if I've got this completely wrong, is it doesn't take into account the value that I've built up in certain players, so I actually have more money in the bank. I think I've got like 7.4 million left to spend on an attacker. So, like I said, if we're taking into account these are the players that I deem locked in, the player there that is highlighted, that's currently Rodgers, needs to be a player in that kind of 6 to 7.5 million range. That's where I want it to be. I've got Reinders as my cheap option. The fifth midfielder will be a cheap option. That's got to be a 6 to 7.5 million option. So when we look at them and we go by price, what have we got? Well, Eze, I'm not in love with yet because I don't want to block myself off if Saka is truly the one that needs to go there. Gibbs White, I'm not seeing enough. Gordon, I just don't really love that pick. Then we know Xavi Simons, of course. We start going down. Grealish for me is not the one. Savinho, no. Trossard, no. Enzo, I just think Chelsea are going to be on the ropes for a few weeks, coming as a Chelsea fan, so I don't really love that. Kudus, again, hopefully some Spurs fans might let me know what the thoughts are on Kudus versus Xavi Simons, possibly. And then after that, Barnes, Bruno Guimaraes, I just don't really love that at all. Doku could be a short-term punt, but we know the issues with him there. Then we got Estevao, my boy, but I do think we are on that spot. And Gordon's put the thing in there about Ndai, and you know where I'm going with this. It's so damn boring. It's so boring, but is it the right move? Is it the right move? I do think Enzo's a good shout. I think Enzo could be a good shout, but I don't really know about that. FPL Tom, hey, hope you're doing well, mate. Obviously, for the guys that don't follow FPL Tom, make sure you do. One of the best around this season. Would you go for Richarlison or João Pedro on the wildcard? Tom, I spoke about this earlier about João Pedro. As a Chelsea fan, I think the injuries that we've got right now, when you actually look at the starting 11 that we're going to be rolling out, it's incredibly young, inexperienced team. And you know, we're going to have people like Garnacho, Gittins, Estevao, Enzo in a 10, João Pedro playing a little bit fatigued or whatever he's carrying. So I think the aggressive move is to go for someone like a Richarlison. The problem is you've kind of got that situation where I think Richarlison over the next 3 outscores João Pedro, but I think you sell Richarlison much quicker than that of João Pedro, because we know long term the fixtures are really good for Chelsea beyond, I would say, beyond game week. Is it game week 10? Chelsea's fixture game week 9. So I think João Pedro is still a long-term hold. Richarlison will be a quick sell once Solanke and Kolo Muani are back. So it probably depends, mate, if you're in a spot where you will happily use a transfer maybe in 3 game weeks' time. I don't mind being aggressive, though, with that kind of move, personally. I'm scared at 65% owned. If João Pedro does just get a penalty and score it or something, then we could be in a bit of a problem. Ludwig's coming clutch here, so... Xavi's been great, 100% passing the eye test, could have easily had a goal against Brighton, and he was the spark coming into that game. He was good against Villarreal too when playing out left, okay? He did kind of drift into the middle with Spence overlapping, which is even more likely should Udogie play instead of Spence on that left-hand side. I like to hear that. I do like to hear that. I'm going to be honest with you. Xavi Simons is the one that I want to select. I don't mind Ndai, but I'm not absolutely captivated by it. And what I do like about Xavi as well is that I can go down to Ndai. If I go Ndai and Xavi Simons becomes just this incredible player, then all of a sudden I'm in a spot where I'm like, ooh, I don't have Xavi and I need to get there. So that's why I'm kind of in on Xavi Simons as a pick. The rest of the team, the front 3, Haaland, João Pedro, Gyökeres, I'm just going to go with it. It's so boring. To show you what you could do, just as a heads up, you get rid of Xavi and you put in Saka. You get rid of Gyökeres and you buy a forward which is about 6.5 or below, basically, is where we're at. So when I look at it, you can get... I can't get Richarlison, otherwise that would be quite nice. Saka, can I get there? Hang on. I'm just going to check for you guys a minute. Because, as I said, my team value is different here. So if I just build the team a minute. Let me see what I can actually afford. Dubravka. Let's put in cheap a minute if we're going to be able to afford this. Anderson. Dewsbury Hall could just sit there a minute. That becomes Saka. And that's for Richarlison. I'm missing somebody. Wow. So we could do that. That's an option. With 0.7 million in the bank. And Dewsbury Hall is kind of our Everton coverage if we want it. I don't hate that as a team. Saka, Fernandes, and then Richarlison is the choice. Ben, why not Kudus? I don't mind Kudus. I think he's decent. I just spoke about it. I do think there will be times where Brennan Johnson's just going to need to be the one to score the goals at times, and that's my only worry about it, really. What about Evan Nielsen? I don't mind Evan Nielsen at all, but I just think Semenyo plus Evan Nielsen, I haven't seen enough from Bournemouth offensively to want to go double, and I'm pretty happy with Semenyo. I just think you kind of have to go for him right now if he is the penalty taker in particular. Am I missing something here? That looks quite nice as a team. Richarlison, of course, is an issue afterwards. Saka, I prefer to Gyökeres. What am I missing in this team? What am I missing? It's got 0.7 million in the bank, which is nice. It's got Dewsbury Hall, who I think is putting up good numbers. It's got Bukayo Saka. We got Richarlison as a bit of a short-term pick. Stephen, I think Xavi plus Richarlison, I'm not as huge on that. Loving, I've just built the same midfield as you, but with Kudus instead of Bruno. Kind of want to have something else instead of Kudus, so any recommendations? I do think if you're looking in a spot where... Yeah, Kudus. Anyway, sadly, it is going to be in If you can't... what else instead of Kudus? then I think it is Ilian Ndiaye of Everton. I do believe that. I still think he is a good pick. I do apologise. Richarlison. What are his numbers like? Really good against Burnley. Hey. Gordon, I agree. Something is missing in this draft. It feels a little bit meh. Look, I think it makes sense to go this route. Waden, I'll answer your question just hopefully so it stops you spamming it. Who do I play between Bruno, Ndiaye, João Pedro, and Wood? Need to play 3 of them. I mean, Bruno has to play. Who Ndiaye? Let me know. Is that Ndiaye as in the Everton Ilian Ndiaye penalty taker? João Pedro and Wood. I probably would. If I had Chris Wood, I'd probably just start him. You kind of have to start him, even though he is a bit of a rotation risk. It's home against Sunderland. I'd play Chris Wood. I'd play Bruno, and I probably would play Ilian Ndiaye just because I'm worried about João Pedro's situation. Bruno Fernandes, and then, like I said, Simons in there. Still got money to spend though, by the way, 1.1 million in this team. So we still got a lot of room to do stuff in this side. So if we just come back to my plan, because I'm conscious I haven't actually covered off what I'm doing. So let's say we do stick with what I said. We go for that. Front 3 of Haaland, João Pedro, Gyökeres. Boring, but it is what it is. I'm hoping Gyökeres is just a flat track bully and he just does the business in the easy games, because this week we're expecting absolutely nothing from him, but he could just mop up in these games. He could just be an absolute monster. And if not, at least I've got the price point that allows me to get up to somebody like an Isak if he just becomes essential in the game. So let's put that instead of Xavi Simons. Here we go. So this team works because I've got a plan to bench boost. So for example, game week 7, my team would look probably like, how would this team look? Maybe like that? That looks fine. Bench boostable as well, just a heads up. Game week 7 is absolutely, I'm not really wedded to a particular bench boost. I could happily bench boost that if I wanted to. Game week 8 would be the first real bench boost opportunity because the bench would probably look like this. Dubravka home against Leeds, Burn away against Brighton, Stack away against Burnley, and Senesi away against Palace. So I've got to ask myself, is there any better fixtures? Well, if I owned Anderson that week, I don't think it's much better at home against Arsenal. I've got a bit of Man City, got a bit of Palace there. So 8 works. 8 absolutely works. Game week 9, remember I'll have 4 free transfers if I somehow get to this point. I can make moves. But this is still a bench boostable team as well. The 11 kind of picks itself if we're of the assumption that Villa are still playing poorly. Dubravka, Van der Ven, Richards and Stack. And I look at the actual fixtures with Chelsea being home against Sunderland. Great opportunity maybe for me to use a transfer and try and strengthen this team a little bit. I also think there are other options. We could lean towards maybe a Wolves player if they suddenly become good picks. Or that's probably it really. So my plan has to be that I've got good options in 8, 7, 8, 9 to allow myself to bench boost. And I think in any of those weeks, we can really go towards that. So it really comes down to the defence. If we are going back to my quote-unquote locked team, I think the more I've spoken, the more I'm just going to put Gyökeres in. So he's what I'm going to call locked. For anyone that's just tuning in, this is becoming my like template where I'm just going to add the players that I think are now locked, and eventually I'm going to get to a point where I'm like, oh, well, I've kind of selected 15, I'm done. So Gyökeres has now been added to the locked team, so I can't change it now, just a heads up. So now it comes down to the rotations of the rest of the team. So Xavi Simons I want to include as we discussed because the next 3 are good, and I think he is just a top player. I think Ndiaye is good as well as a pick. He's got West Ham, he's got Palace. By the way, why are people thinking that's a good fixture for Ndiaye? Palace are 17 games consecutive unbeaten in competitive games. Like, I wouldn't own Ndiaye and be like, oh, Palace at home. Like, that's tough. And then they've got City away. And then they got Spurs at home, who are playing really well. Then they got Sunderland. I get it. I get the Sunderland one. Spurs got Chelsea, Everton, and then got Fulham. So when I look at my defence now, as I said, it needs to cater towards a bench boost at some point. So, for example, a lot of people are saying to me, what about Tarkowski? So if we were to take the money out of Dan Burn and we were to go to Tarkowski, because of the planner here, the problem is I'm straight away in a position where I'm benching quite a good player in defence. So what, Tarkowski gets benched for what, Gabriel? You've got to play Van de Ven. There's no point me owning Van de Ven if I don't start him in this particular game week. So maybe then the question becomes, am I just overstating Van de Ven as a choice? Maybe Van de Ven becomes a little bit of a problem as opposed to anything else. Because if you take out Van de Ven and you go for what we've spoken about, Anderson as just a long-term set and forget, and we put him on the bench and do this, this is pretty much template. Now, for those that are wondering, I think I can afford this team. Let me just check. So that becomes Richards. Sorry, for those that are wondering, the Plan FPL hasn't captured the value I've built up in players. So I just need to see if I can afford the team that I've just spoken about. I can't afford it. So that's a problem. Well, it's not a problem. I would just downgrade Richards to somebody. But this is why I was saying Dan Burn is quite a nice alternative to Tarkowski, effectively. Because I do think Tarkowski is a good pick. So Richards would have to go. Unless I'm missing something, guys. I think Richards would have to go. Dewsbury Hall probably sticks around. But I can't play him in there. Whereas Stack can play in 8 and 9 and in 7. And his numbers have been steady. Let's not get ahead of ourselves here. So the team currently would look like this. But then Richards, if I go down the Tarkowski route, would have to become Aldorete, whatever his name is. But then I'm forcing myself to a game week 8 bench boost, which is not ideal. So that's why I personally am leaning towards more like this. Something like this. And then using Dan Burn in game week 8 or 9 in this scenario. It's a possibility. Dewsbury Hall on 4 yellow cards is a really good point, actually. Sam, agree. Template wildcards, I absolutely agree on that one. They are very, very template. What I will say is this: it's template, but it's only template because we're all seeing it on these streams. End of the day, if you actually broke down this team, this is still a very differential team with a combination of all of these players. Now, bit of context, I actually can't afford the team that I've put on my screens here, so I need to actually get rid of one of them. So if we get rid of Tarkowski to Burn, as we've spoken about for now, I think that works. Tarkowski to Burn, and then I think we can afford the rest. Richards is in, yeah. So this is currently where I'm probably leaning towards the team. And it's kind of the team that I had at the start, really, I think. Except Anderson instead of Van de Ven. So yeah, this is where we're currently at. Is Anderson the way I want to go? That's the big question. Let's answer some questions. Let's get into some questions, guys. And again, guys, if you haven't already, please do consider hitting that subscribe button. It's always massively appreciated. It only takes 2 seconds, and it is it's just awesome to have you on board. If that is okay, that would be great. Thank you, guys. So Isn't Richarlison a massive rotation risk? I think there is a possibility that could be a thing. Yes, I do agree. Who do I play between Bruno and I've covered that one off. Is Bruno to Kudus and Saka to Salah an option? I wouldn't be doing that this week. No, absolutely not. I would not be considering that. What do I think of benching Watkins for playing Lacroix? If you own Watkins, I would play him. I would play him, yes. Up Dewsbury Hall to Caicedo is not a bad shout, of course, if we do go for the cheaper route. Who's the Arsenal penalty taker? If it isn't Saka, I don't think he's paid exactly. And that is why I do think if Saka, you go for him and you suddenly discover he's not the penalty taker, that's a little bit of a problem. That's a little bit of a problem. While we're streaming, I just want to make sure I'm keeping tabs on Twitter just to see if there was any like embargoed stuff or anything. Maybe that's coming out. Just seeing if there's anything here. Nothing on Twitter right now, guys. So I don't think we're going to get much, to be honest with you. Don't see much. Okay, let's get on with some of the stuff here. So, what else have we got? Why not Tarkowski? Right now, I can't afford him with the combination of Xavi. So, just to give you guys an idea of what my team looks like on the actual site, because it takes into account all of the prices. This is kind of how it looks. And in order for me to get Tarkowski, I would have to do Richards down to a cheap option, Burn up to Tarkowski, or I would have to do Xavi Simons down to Ilian Ndiaye, and then Burn up. So this is where you guys are always very, very helpful. Which would you pick? You guys let me know. Would you rather go for Tarko plus Ndiaye, or would you rather go for Burn plus Simons? These are basically the same price when you put it in as a combination. Foden, I love Foden as a pick. I love it. Personally, I can't justify that price point in the team. It takes a lot of sacrifices alongside having Bruno and Semenyo, really. So you kind of are taking on Semenyo if you want to go for Foden, which I'm not against. But it's very hard not to have Semenyo, isn't it, a little bit? It's quite scary not having Semenyo. Numbers have been pretty good. Fixtures are not bad. Gyökeres and Reinders to Saka and Foster? Nah, not a fan of that. Not a fan of that personally anyway. I think Reinders is so good. What do you think about Gakpo and Mateta and Munoz? Gakpo, Mateta and Munoz to Gyökeres, Semenyo and Agbadu. Yes. Don't mind those moves. Don't mind those moves. I've got Gahey as my Palace defender in the wildcard with his goal threat as well. Thought, yes, don't mind that at all. If you already owned Gahey. Personally, I don't think he's worth the 0.2 more than Richards myself. I'd rather just go Richards at 4.5. Morning, what would you do if you didn't have to think about bench boost? If I didn't have to think about bench boost, I probably would downgrade someone like a Richards all the way down to a cheap enabler straight out the bat, 100%. Otherwise, I think that's probably it. And I probably wouldn't be as inclined to think about... I think this stack roll will become a bit more fun. But I think whoever this is has to be good in 7, 8 or 9. And he kind of ticks that box because if I want to pull the trigger in 7, home against Spurs is not good, but it's not horrendous. Burnley away is fine. West Ham at home is fine. So any of those weeks I want to use him is good. Whereas if I look at Dewsbury Hall, similar price point. If I go here, fine. But someone did warn me that he's on 4 yellow cards. Now, Is the 5 yellow card thing a thing? Do you get banned after 5 or is it 10? People let me know if that's all right. If I missed something there. So I like Dewsbury Hall as a pick. I do. But he's not getting a defensive contribution. So then we're really leaning into, oh, can he do the business? So by that default, I think Stack is kind of in right now. But I don't love him as a choice personally. I don't love it. On a what? You really need Isak. He is a differential. I do like it. I can't squeeze him in this team, though, unfortunately. What about Xavi rotation risk? He also played midweek. Yeah, that is a concern. I think Champions League football is a big factor that I need to take into account. But I also think Xavi Simons will just play, personally. I do think he will. Would you start Watkins or Rodgers? I would start Watkins myself. More than hope you well. I have wildcarded and gone Isak over Gyökeres. Not sure. Look, I don't mind it. The only thing is that it's 1.5 million. Slots come out and said that he isn't ready to play 90 minutes. And next week, Ekitike is back. So that is the only thing you got to worry about is Isak potentially at some point just going to be a bit of a rotation risk? Haven't seen enough from Xavi over that period. Yeah, that's fair. What is actually, like, what have Everton's results been? So they beat Leeds. Sorry, they lost against Leeds. What was the actual scores? I need to get the actual scores up a minute. Sorry, guys, I'm completely bunged up here. Have Everton actually been decent? Everton results. So, Everton. Lost to Leeds, beat Brighton. I don't like that. I weirdly don't like the fact that I'm looking at this right now. Oh, give me a sec, guys. I don't know if that's the door. Give me 2 seconds. Let's see if there's someone at the door a minute. Give me a second. Apologies. Christ almighty. Bloody falling on my desk. Sorry, guys. My partner had a passport come in and literally going out on Thursday, ordered it 2 weeks ago, and we were like, we cannot miss the drop-off. So thankfully it's come so she can now go away. I'm out of breath. Just walked up the stairs. Okay. The reason why I'm a little bit is they won at home against Brighton and they drew at home against Villa. But they should have lost against Brighton, shouldn't they, really? They should have lost against Brighton. So, why am I out of breath? Do I think that we're in a position where Everton are just going to be really good at home? Because if that's the case, the next two, I'm a little bit like, I kind of want some sort of Everton in my team. And you guys kind of agree. I've put the poll up about Burn and Simons or Tarko and Ndai. And you guys are going Tarko and Ndai. So by that, this is what you guys are saying, by the way. So don't shoot me if this looks really template. I'm just saying. If you guys are telling me to go down this route, then it's that. with 0.3 million in the bank. So the team will look like that. The problem with this team, let me just show you, is this. If we go down this route, and let me just say, Will Anderson or Caicedo, I personally would be probably going for... I think Anderson has way more to his game, but I think Caicedo has the long-term fixtures and the defensive contributions. So I probably would say Caicedo, mate, as for consistent returns. Now again, you guys cannot blame me for this looking template as you voted for it. Just saying. Don't hurt me. But I'm just saying, you guys are the ones that told me to do this based on the poll. So I've asked you, Burn and Javi Simons or Tarkowski and Ndai. And we've landed on this. And it looks like that. That is template. That is very template. But, as I said, I'm not here to judge the template because, end of the day, I don't care. I don't care. If people tell me it's template, for me, it doesn't matter. I'm not fussed. For what does matter for me is, does this team work for a bench boost? That's all I care about. I don't care about anything else. I don't care what people have selected. The reason why I haven't looked at other content creators' wildcards is because it doesn't benefit me. I have to bench boost. So if there are people out there that have bench boost last week, I literally don't care because they're doing a completely different team and reasonings behind their choices. So 6, as we know, looks great. Looks as good as the Burn one, as we spoke about. Game week 7. What does the team look like? Well, Tarkowski, I think if I owned him, I kind of would have to play him and hope for the best. So the team would look like this. That looks fine. Is this team bench boostable still? Yes. If I had to bench boost this in game week 7, I'd be content with it. I'd be fine with it. Then coming into game week 8, the 11 would look like probably that. Is that bench boostable? I'm going to say no. Ndai away against Man City, not very good at all. It's a bit of a sticky team, that one. Not really in love with game week 8. Again, when we look at the actual fixtures, Spurs against Villa could be a nice one. And then game week 9, when we take a look at it, this is the last chance saloon for me about whether the bench boost is a choice. And if this team picks itself, is the bench boostable? I would argue, yes, it could be bench boostable. But if I was to go down the Everton route, I would make the argument that next week is the best time to do so. I would make the argument that next week is the best time to do so. What about Burn and then die and stack to Caicedo? What about Burn and then die to stack in Caicedo? I don't really get that because Burn, there's no defender there. So I'm intrigued to know what you mean by that. Triple Captain Haaland. Yes, Alex, we covered that earlier, mate. I 100% would be going for Triple Captain Haaland if I hadn't activated my wildcard because I just think it's a no-brainer in terms of what else is available to you. So I just don't really think you have to worry about later down the line. Who knows what's going to happen in future game weeks? There could be injuries. I would just lean towards what we discussed. Use it now. You know what's in front of you. And that kind of is what we need to play in the present. I just need to answer a quick question, guys. Do apologise. Sorry, guys. Give me 2 secs. Okay, so what have we got here? Ahmed with a super chat. Thank you, Ahmed, for the super chat. Much appreciated. My wildcard, Raya Gabriel, Senesi Vardial, Anderson Romero. Okay, Romero's interesting. Reinders Bruno, and Die, Wirtz, Gyökeres, Haaland and Richarlison. Should I risk Wirtz? No, I don't think Wirtz is worth it. Now look, could Wirtz become a fantastic pick eventually? 100%. Is it too much money for you to invest in your team, Ahmed? I'm going to say yes. I love being different for the sake of being different. But Liverpool are coming up against a Crystal Palace team that are 17 games unbeaten in competitive games. Is this a time that Wirtz is going to really go off? I just think the answer is no. So for that reason, I'm going to say Wirtz is your biggest sacrifice in that team. And then it comes down to where do you want to pump the rest of the funds. If you're leaning towards Richarlison, I don't mind that choice. But then I would be saying to you, with the move of Richarlison, that is a transfer out later down the line. Wirtz out for me is a bit of a simple move. I don't know how much money you got available, so let me know in the chat if you could, buddy. Harry's asking Rodon or Mukiela or Alderete. So I can't pronounce that. Alderete, whatever it is. So it comes down to what your strategy is, really, because in terms of defensive contributions, just for context, because it's boring, but that is what everybody's looking for right now. So Alderete has played 90 minutes in the last 4, and defensive contributions, he's hit them in the last 3. Perfect. In terms of here we go. Again, play 90 minutes in the last 3. Defensive contributions in the last 3. My understanding is there's a chance he could go out to right back, but I don't know if there's enough information to suggest that will just impact things directly. Then we come down to Rodon. Now, Rodon we know is 90 minutes. Defensive contributions has hit it twice in both away games of Fulham and Arsenal. And the fixtures coming up, I think, are actually not too bad. So it comes down to what your strategy is, really. I think Rodon is actually an absolutely fine choice. If we look at the fixtures for Sunderland, it comes down to more of a case of when do you need to play them. Because I would say Leeds' fixtures are a little bit better. But I would say if you're just using Sunderland in like this and this, then that's not too bad at all as well. So if I had to go for one, I probably would go for Alderete over Mukiela, whatever you pronounce it. But I think Rodon really benefits a bench boost if you're going down to that price point. And then it comes down to what price are you looking at. Gyökeres or João Pedro long term, I think I probably would lean towards... they're different price points. I'd still say João Pedro because I think Saka could become one. Tarkowski to burn and keep and die and upgrade stack to Caicedo. That's not a bad shout. So Tarkowski down to burn. And then stack, which does give me, interestingly, 5.8 million to spend. Which gives me 5.8 to spend in midfield. Which looks like this. So we could I'll tell you what. If I just had 0.1 million, Minter would actually be very tempting. But I don't, so I'm not going to think about it. 5.8 million to spend on players. Let's delve into the games a minute. Why are we building this team so close to game time, honestly? So look, do I think Caicedo is going to score every time? No. Do I think he'll tick over with 4 points in every game? Yes, because he literally does it in all of the games. So I think Caicedo will continue with 4 points. I don't mind that at all. Does Caicedo help my bench boost? Yes, in 9. Definitely against Sunderland. But look, are there really that many choices? Not really. It's pretty woeful. That's why I'm kind of leaning towards that stack a little bit. But I don't mind what you mentioned there at all. I don't mind what you mentioned. But guys, look, I think we should get this team locked in, honestly. I feel like I need to get my actor in gear and just get it done. Don't know what I'm playing at, really. Right. I think it's one of those classic things where you kind of know what your team's going to look like, but you kind of also want to try and change things up just for the sake of it. Like, I personally want Xavi Simons. I want Xavi Simons, obviously, but I'm now thinking, oh my God, I'm actually in a position where I'm scared to own him. Do you know what I mean? Because people are telling me that there's rotation. So, yeah. This is what I'm worried about a little bit. Is there rotation enough in Xavi Simons to suggest that he could be not a good option and then suddenly I'm going to have to sell him down the line? But, like I said, I don't love wildcards. They make you stress unnecessarily. Tony, thank you for the $99 there, but no questions. So please let me know what the question is, my friend, on that one. What else we got? Start one of Gudmundsson, Lacroix, or Diouf. Well, let's remind ourselves of the fixtures in general for everybody. So we've got, of course, Palace have got Liverpool, as we know. West Ham have got Everton away, not ideal. And then you have got Gudmundsson for their game against Bournemouth. I probably would lean towards... I think there's goals conceded in most of those. So I probably would lean towards Lacroix and hope he racks up the defensive contributions at least. Pranger's Mash, what a name. On the wildcard, Pope, Calaflori and Minter or Raya, Burn and Die. I prefer the second one because I think Calaflori is not guaranteed every single week. Do you think Ismail Assar will return against Liverpool? Wouldn't be surprised. No, I wouldn't be surprised. Ahmed, you didn't have to put another super chat, my friend. That's very generous, but you didn't have to do that. I have 8.2 and want a differential to replace Wirtz. Well, let's find you a differential, my friend. Now, look, can I just say, Wirtz is absolutely a choice, but would I personally have him in a wild card? No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't myself. So if you've got 8.2, look, this is your big dog in there. This is the guy. If you're looking for 8.2 or less, differential, it's Phil Foden. It just is Phil Foden. Burnley, Brentford, Everton. Now, you know you're taking a risk, but would I rather have Wirtz or Foden? Foden, 100%. When we look down the rest of the list, I think Mbeumo is actually not a bad shout. Brentford and Sunderland in the next two, I think that's the next best alternative. Otherwise, we're delving into cheaper options. You know Ndai's fine. You know Xavi Simons is a nice, fun pick. So, for that reason, you said you want a fun differential, or you want a differential. That guy's Foden, if you want to go there. But you need to understand the risks that come with going with Phil Foden. Let me know your thoughts on that, mate. Matt, on wildcard, Tarkowski and Reinders or Senesi and Mbeumo. I prefer Tarkowski and Reinders, but I would say in the same breath, if you want to save money, Senesi and Reinders is perfectly fine as well. If you got your bench boost out of the way, which third bench player would you get on wildcard? Thanks. Vipul, what third bench player would I get? In what position, mate? Just let me know on that one. You can go Gabriel to Saliba and then get Minter probably. That's a good shout. I don't mind that at all. That's a decent shout. I have seen, though, that Minter is touch and go for this game we have just seen. So I'm a little bit concerned about that. Jaden Anthony, yeah, don't mind it. João Pedro and Ndai, who should you start? I think if you owned Ndai, with the concern I have a little bit about João Pedro, I would say Ndai. But you have to understand, you're benching a player that's 68% owned, which is just massive. I have more. Can you rotate Rodon and Anderson long term? Let's take a look, my friends. So, fixtures, where are we at? think they're here. Here we go. So, God, my eyesight's so bad. Hang on, let me make my page a bit bigger. So, game week 6, Fulham have got Villa, Leeds have got Bournemouth. You could play, obviously, your Leeds player. In game week 7, you'd probably play either. Game week 8, they rotate quite well. Burnley for Leeds, Fulham at home against Arsenal. In game week 9, once again, you play your Leeds. And then afterwards, it's going to be your Fulham after that. So yeah, Leeds for the next 4, Fulham for the ones afterwards. I don't mind that at all. I think that is absolutely fine to go down that route. And I do look at Sunderland's fixtures and I think maybe Rodon or something is actually the route I need to go for in my defence if I was going for cheaper options. Because like I said, if I'm looking personally at a bench boost between 7 and 9, if we just break that down a minute, let's just quickly do that. Fixture ticker, let's get rid of that and let's just chop out all of this. And we're just looking at this. Fixture difficulty between 7 and 9, who's good? Wolves, Leeds, Spurs, Arsenal, Burnley. So we got Burnley already in Dubravka. I don't really want to double Burnley personally. I mean, Bournemouth look tasty. Brighton, Man United could be good by then. You just don't really know. Sunderland, don't like it. But obviously, if you were going in 8, it's fine. But I'd then make the argument that Leeds in 8 are fine as well. And Leeds also cater towards 9. So, you know, I think, based on what I'm looking at right now, Palace offer value as long as I don't bench boost in 9, because that's Arsenal, but they benefit me in 7 and 8. Leeds kind of tick all the boxes as opposed to 7. Burnley don't really help because I think Leeds are just as fine as Burnley. Wolves actually look okay, but I can't get behind Agbadou. Surely not. Surely not. It can't go on like this. So, yeah, maybe Rodon is the route to go for in this Leeds team. Can you rotate Rodon? So, yeah, that does work. Rodon and Anderson as a bit of a rotation. We'll just get up. So, if we take... But, as you can see, in my team, I'm not going that cheap with those players. That's the only thing. But what I could do, for example, is like, you know, take out Richards, possibly. Go down to Rodon, because I'm not really playing Richards. Oh, God, hang on. I've done that wrong. Hang on. Go there. Take out Richards. Put in Rodon for that week. Don't need him for game week 6. Also, just so we know what that does with the rest of my team. So I'm kind of also building my team on the side here because I've had to keep players in order to afford them. Sorry, my brain just works very weird. Richarlison's not in my team anymore. I love it, but I just can't go there. Kudus is not in my team right now. It's currently Ndai, I believe, but I will check. Hang on a sec. Let's put in... What have we got in here right now? We got the boring team right now, haven't we? Sorry, I keep calling it boring team. I shouldn't call it the boring team, but it is a bit boring. Taco. And then that becomes Stack. Okay, so I can't afford that team. So why am I thinking I can afford it? Oh, because Donnarumma's sat there. Bloody hell. What am I playing at? There. I think that's the team that I've built on my other planner. And it still gives me 0.8 million in the bank to do stuff with the team. Still gives me 0.8 to do stuff with the team. Hence why I've been tempted to upgrade Rodon to somebody else. But for clarity, what the team could look like then is... So I can afford this team. So, you know, this week looks good. Game week 7, as I said, could bench boost. I absolutely could bench boost in 7 if I wanted to. It's not the ideal week, but it could be done. But then, game week 8, the team looks pretty rough with the Everton. That's my issue. Everton, ruin, an 8 bench boost. Game week 9 doesn't look horrendous. Game week 9 could be the one for a bench boost for me, I feel. I'll have transfers in the bank, loads of options available. So I think that could be a choice. Vardial or Tarkowski, and why? Well, Vardial's alright, but Tarkowski just has the defensive contributions. That kind of helps him. Cheers. What about Senesi and Rodon? Both great picks. Both great picks. I think Anthony Gordon's a very good differential if you're on your wildcard. On penalties and amazing fixtures for the rest of the year. Agree. But what is his price? 7.4. Tough to squeeze in the team. Tough to squeeze in the team. Now, of course, I'm looking at this and I'm asking myself, you know, what have I got available to me? What could this 0.8 do? Guys, let me know in the chat right now. 0.8 million with a bench boost between 7 and 8. What would you do with the 0.8 million? A reminder, the players that are locked in: Raya Dubravka, Gabriel Senesi, Semenyo, Reinders, Bruno Fernandes, João Pedro, Haaland, probably Gyökeres, really. So what are your thoughts? What would you do with the 0.8 million here to improve the team? What are your thoughts on Isak? Well, Slot's come out and said he can't play 90 minutes. So that's my worry. I just don't think you can fully get behind it. Just realised I could have Richarlison instead of Gyökeres and then could afford Bruno instead of Kudus. Don't mind that. I don't mind that. Boy in the autumn, Fernandes to Saka. Oh, I can't get behind it. I'm sorry. I'm such a Bruno fanboy in FPL. I'm going to stick on my boy Bruno on that one, but I don't mind it. I don't mind it. Tony, put a super chat. Thank you so much on that one, mate. Same team with you, but I have 1.6 million. What to upgrade? Tony, I do apologize. I kind of changed my team like a million times. So could you let me know what you are? Is your team like this? Don't put a super chat. Just say yes and I'll cover it, mate. Apologies. I've changed my team like 1,000 times. Typical. Played wildcard and happy with my team, but not sure who to start. Who would you start out? Gabriel, Saka, Pedro, and Reinders. Reinders you have to start. And how many do you need to start out of this? Let's say you need to start 3 out of the 4. I would start Reinders. I would always start Bukayo Saka if I owned him. I probably would start João Pedro as well and bench Gabriel. But if you don't have any Arsenal coverage, then I probably would look to bench João Pedro. But I'm going to be honest, Gabriel probably would be the 4 guy in this situation. Tarko and Ndai or Burns and Grealish. I prefer Tarko and Ndai of that combination. Richarlison or Evan Nielsen for this game week? For this game week, I prefer Richarlison. Good morning, mate. Hope you're doing well. Samer edits. Quick question. Who should I bench out of Gyökeres, Ndai and Reinders? Currently benching Reinders. Ugh. I don't like the thought of benching Reinders at home against Burnley. I mean, based on fixture, the answer is Gyökeres, isn't it? You're only going Reinders because he's the cheapest, and I think it feels easier to bench him. But I think Gyökeres is the correct answer here. But I get it. You probably don't want to bench Gyökeres. Benjamin Cole, who are doing well, mate. Hey, mate, Gyökeres and a 5.9 million under mid, or Saka and Foster. 5.9 and under, if you don't have Reinders, is your first easy answer, Ben. Let me know if you don't own Reinders already. Who would you start, Richards or Burn this week? I would always lean towards, in this scenario, where would I lean towards? Who would you start, Richards at home against Liverpool or Burn at home against Arsenal? I honestly think you coin flip because I think both are huge underdogs in their respective games. Liverpool, I think, are a better team scoring-wise, so I'd probably say Dan Burn. I think you're doing the Fernandes Saka move game week 8. Yes, don't mind that. Tony, you're saying your team is the same as what is on screen right now, but you've got 1.6 million in the bank to use. So if you've got 1.6 million in the bank to use here, let's say the forwards are untouchable unless you really want to go for Alexander Isak this week as opposed to Gyökeres. I think the big upgrade here would be something like, I think if you put more money in the defence, I don't think that actually benefits the team long term. So I would make the argument with the 1.6, we improve possibly someone like the stack pick and we get that up to, I mean, where would we go? Where would we really go with the stack pick? Otherwise, Ndai up and we go really big. I mean, you go all the way to like a Phil Foden, for example, and you really stretch it all the way to a Foden and be really aggressive this week. Otherwise, you could, if you wanted to, upgrade Anderson to a Van Dijk and then downgrade Tarkowski to someone a bit cheaper like a Dan Burn, and at least you've got double premiums then in your team. Again, guys, let me know, what would you do with this team with 0.8 left in the bank? Save the 0.8. That's a fair shout. Save the 0.8. Team looks good. Greetings from Colombia. Hope you're doing well, mate. Gravenberch, don't mind it, but I'm not in on Gravenberch myself. I'm not there yet. I wonder if the rest of Twitter are exploding or not right now. I wonder what they're all feeling. Donnarumma or Raya? I'm going for Raya myself. I'm going for Raya. So yeah, I'm currently leaning towards this team. If I look at it on the planner, let's just hope my team looks the same here. Raya, Senesi, Gabriel, Tarkowski, Anderson and Rodon in defence. Now, Rodon could go up to another player, but like we've spoken about in this section, it's got to be someone who is good for my bench boost in game weeks 7 to 9, realistically. And I don't know if, like, for example, Crystal Palace are the standouts. I could go for Richards for Everton or Bournemouth, but they're again coming up against my Semenyo, which is a little bit, and then 9 against Arsenal, not incredible. So I think Richards is good, but I don't think it is like, oh my God, I need to own Richards for this period as an example. And when we go through the weeks right now in my current selection, do I need Richards at any point? That selects itself for 7. Game week 8, I'd more than happily roll out that team. I think it's fine. And then game week 9, that defence picks itself once again. Don't think Richards benefits. And then in game week 10, you know, Tarkowski away against there, so I play him there. Not really required once again. And this is where I've got the transfers in the bank. I'm starting to see the appeal of Anderson a bit more now, even though originally I was looking to not have him in my team. So I'm starting to ask myself, is the 0.8 million beneficial? Am I going too heavy on Leeds, for example, on this bench boost? Maybe I need to shake up one of the players on this bench boost. Maybe Stack is enough and Rodon is not. And then where do I go for the defender, really? Or I take the money away from Stack and I look more at a midfielder lens and ask myself, is there a midfielder here that really would benefit me over this period that offers guaranteed game time? And again, the answer is probably no. It's probably not really. I don't see any cheap midfielders that equally benefit my team. I think Declan Rice is quite expensive and it blocks me out of a player. I can't get myself to Minter. Bournemouth, no. Villa, we wish. So again, I don't think there is a midfielder to go into. Caicedo, I don't love it. I don't love it. So with the 0.8, again, it's 0.8 million, not 0.5. Now we've got to ask ourselves, if we free up additional funds, does that improve anybody? We're locking in here. We've locked in Semenyo, Bruno, Reinders. We're locking in Anderson long term. Gabriel's in. Senesi's in. So like I said, Rodon just offers a purpose, and I'm not putting money for the sake of money in this team. Rodon, in terms of defensive contributions, I just want to look at Leeds a minute, just to understand where they're at as a team. Because, can I just say, I don't think Leeds are great. Like, if we look at Leeds a minute for their results, where are they at in terms of their results? So, they beat Everton, got smashed by Arsenal, drew against Newcastle, small defeat there, and then beat Wolves. So Leeds doing well. Do I think Leeds are going to continue it? Probably not, but they're still not a horrendous investment for them. So again, I got to ask myself right now, if those players are locked in, in that team. We got to come to the planner. And we got to ask ourselves, is Ndiaye the guy? Is he the man? Because I can have fun with Xavi Simons. And what it does is Xavi Simons just allows me to have a bit more flexibility on the bench boost in game week 8 if I want to go there. That is all. It gives me a bit of flexibility. Let me check Twitter, see if there's been any sort of team news and stuff. Guys, it's coming down to Xavi. Almost Xavi versus a few others. I think Ilian Ndiaye is good. I don't know whether he's amazing. Is there any other alternatives? Foden and Mbeumo or Fernandes and Ndiaye? Ooh, Fernandes and Ndiaye for me. Best 6.3 million midfielder. Wow, I probably would go down to somebody cheaper then, really, and look at the alternatives. And like I said, I think Stack's okay at a cheaper price. I think Minter Brighton is also a consideration. Start Gakpo or João Pedro. I would start João Pedro myself. Natural help, I'm struggling who to bench from my defence. Ollie, I thought we covered that one, buddy. Benjamin, I already own Reinders, 5.9 million under. I'm looking at Caicedo, Anthony or Paqueta, so one of them, and Gyökeres or Saka and Foster. Well, firstly, I think I'm leaning towards Gyökeres myself. Caicedo is a 4-point magna. It'll keep ticking over with that. Otherwise, Stack at Leeds frees up loads of money for you. Let me get rid of that poll a minute. So, yeah, this is the big debate for me, really, guys. Ndiaye or Xavi Simons, really. I mean, that gives me the Wolves game, which is great. I think that's as good as Ndiaye's fixture against West Ham. And for context, what that does with the rest of my team is this. Is that. Looks fine. And then the following week, Xavi will be away against Leeds. Again, do I want Ilian Ndiaye against Crystal Palace? Like, it's fine, but I think Palace are good. Or maybe I'm wrong there. Kudus, yeah, I think Kudus is a shout. Ollie, your defense is. Yeah, I think I'd probably go for that. Porro, Senesi, Tarkowski. You've already got some Arsenal coverage with Raya. Kudus, yes, I don't mind Kudus, to be honest with you. Guaranteed minutes. Maybe that's the safer choice in this team. But yeah, this is how my team would look then for game week 7 if I went for Xavi Simons. Senesi, Gabriel, Tarkowski, Semenyo, Fernandes, Xavi, Reinders, Haaland, João Pedro and Gyökeres with that bench. And then game week 8, we got the Spurs for the Villa game and it allows us to bench boost if we want to. And then game week 9 is probably the target game week if we want to really go there with the bench boost. So yeah, that's how we're currently looking. Tarkowski. Guys, I'm going to need you for the last poll of the day. Kudus, Xavi Simons, or Ilian Ndiaye. Go, go, go. Let me know. And then we're going to get this team locked in. We're just going to get it done. That's where I'm currently landing. That's where we're currently sat. Oh, I got a bloody bunged up nose. I do apologise, guys. Romero's a great pick if you want to go there for the next 3. By far the best Spurs choice if you can afford it. 100%. Yes, this is definitely the latest that I've planned my team 100%. I don't love it. Don't like playing it this late at all. But yeah, this is how we're currently looking. What are our thoughts in general, guys? Like I said, the bench boost has to be a consideration. I do like the Xavi pick. Do I think like Xavi versus Ndai? And I think Xavi just helps my bench boost a bit more than that of Ndai over a period. Do I think Xavi is a bit of a risk? Yes. Could I downgrade it? Look, I think the thing about it sometimes is like, I think what we need to remember is the game itself. Like, you can use transfers. Like, what's the worst case? I bring in Xavi, doesn't do well this week, and then I just ship him out. Like, I think Xavi's just a bit more fun. Bloke's a baller in general. Yes, he's played limited minutes, but he's just easing himself into the team. I think he's good to go. I think he's ready. Do I think he's benched this week? Personally, no. I personally don't think he'll be benched. I think I'm just going to get this team sorted. I think this is what I want. I think the money in the bank doesn't help me. I think Leeds help me have flexibility in future game weeks. Who am I selling here that does give up value? Donnarumma, Steve, I don't care. Van der Ven. Van der Ven I would like to own, but meh. I do like Van der Ven. Ndai and Van der Ven? And I play Ndai this week? That doesn't really make a lot of sense. Dewsbury Hall, kudos for Charlison. Let's just get it done there. My wildcard is active as well. It's important to note. Oh, stomachs all over the shop. That's never good. That's kind of how we're looking. Doku, beautiful for the short term. After that, not really that good. Ludwig, you're my man right now. Can you just give me a holler in the chat? Just a simple, Ludwig, we don't know each other. We know each other from the chat, but we don't know each other personally. You're my one Spurs guy. I don't care if you're wrong over the long term. Can you just give me a little thing in the chat? Be as neutral as possible. Xavi Simons, good or bad? No paragraph. Just put a yes or a no. Let me know. I'm not going to say I was going to decide what I do, but I'm just a little bit curious as to know what the thoughts are about Xavi Simons. I know you've put a very good detailed analysis. We're close to the deadline. Let me know, my friend. Xavi Simons, yes or no? That's all I need to know. And again, I'm not saying this is in you're the oracle and everything you say is correct, but I'm just curious. That's all, my friend. No pressure. Steven's come in. Yes, love it, Steven. Ludwig, this is what I want to hear. Anderson or Richards? Look, Richards is one of those guys that you aren't really going to be playing for the long term, I'm going to be honest. But there are times that he will come in. I'm seeing some good yeses. Buffy saying, me and my boyfriend love you, Nacho. Thank you, Buffy. Much appreciated. Anderson or Richards, covered that one. I will have him. Yes. No for me. Tony. No, I like that. I don't mind. I need some balance out. Why did you transfer out Xavi? No, I think I put Xavi in my team. This is my team, guys. I'm going to go for it. I'm done. Raya in goal. Senesi, Gabriel, Tarkowski, Semenyo, Bruno, Xavi, Reinders. Haaland captain. João Pedro and Gyökeres. It's done. Dubravka in goal with Anderson, Stack and Rodon. Oh, guys, give me 2 seconds. I think I got someone at the door again. Apologies. You have to see my house again. Tell you what, I'm just working up a sweat today. Good job I don't live in a town house, otherwise we'd be absolutely blowing. So, guys, I've just seen the time and I got to do a TikTok live. So, we're going to have to wrap it up there. I do apologise, guys. But I am actually out of breath. I got to play football in an hour and a bit. Jeez Louise. This ain't good. Okay, so I think we're done. Well, I'm out of breath. I think we're done, guys. I do apologise I can't get to the questions just because I got to get on TikTok. I'm so sorry. So my team's locked in. Rhea, Senesi, Gabriel, Tarkowski, Semenyo, Bruno, Xavi, Reinders, Haaland, João Pedro, Gyökeres. And I think that's it really then. I think we're locked in. Just see Joel in the chat. Joel, you're stitching me up now because now I have to answer your question now, don't I? Right. Oh, and Graham Potter sacked as well. Today? Joel, let me answer your question, mate. But if I'm late now and I get it wrong, you cannot blame me, my friend. Joel, you're stitching me up now because I'm going to probably sabotage your team. Who am I benching this game week out of? Semenyo, Mbeumo, Ndai, Reinders, João Pedro, Richarlison on a wildcard. Benching. Work backwards. You cannot bench Reinders at home against Burnley. You can't bench Semenyo because of the ownership. And you only have yourself to blame if he does well. Mbeumo, I would argue, why have you got him on a wildcard if you're not playing him away against Brentford, his old club? So I think you've got to start Mbeumo. Ndai, penalty taker. Penalty taker against West Ham, who possibly have their manager sacked. So I think once again, that's kind of like a no-brainer start. So it comes down to João Pedro versus Richarlison. And again, with Richarlison being a short-term pick, home against Wolves, if you're not starting him, then why do you own him against Wolves? So you have to play Richarlison. So by default, it's got to be João Pedro. I will say though, mate, he's 70% owned in the game. So if he does well, you are obviously cooked in your mini leagues, which I appreciate is probably why you're all in. But by default, I'm probably saying João Pedro in that one, mate. If João Pedro scores, I literally will just never see you again because I appreciate you won't want to talk to me again. But that's where I would go myself, just based on working backwards with the logic. Why stack? Because of my bench boost. I'm just going to quickly put this up because I'm conscious I'm super late for what I'm meant to be doing. But yeah, Joel, just say I'm never talking to you again if João Pedro bags a hattie and you've benched him because of me, mate. So, looking at my wildcard team, based on what I've selected, the reasons behind my choices, I'm going to quickly speed through. That's my starting 11. The reason why I've gone for Xavi Simons is just that gut feeling, literally no other reason behind it, I'm going to be honest. Game week 7, team looks like this. It gives me some sort of bench boost potential because Spurs are playing in the Champions League. Kind of counterintuitive with the Xavi Simons selection, but also I think Leeds, if worst case I play it at 7, but I'm probably not. Game week 8 allows me the bench boost. Tarkowski's not fantastic, but he will get defensive contributions against Man City, hence why I'm looking to play him. So I think 8 is an option, but so too 9. Double Leeds at home against West Ham, Anderson away against Newcastle, Dubravka away against Wolves, and transfers in the bank to improve the rest of the team. That is why I'm going for that stack option as opposed to anything else. Dewsbury Hall stack. One thing I will say, mate, is that they've already got 4 yellow cards, Dewsbury Hall. I believe 5 leads to a 1-game ban. Is Potter actually sacked? He is. Wowzers. And who have West Ham got? Bloody Everton. Is that good or bad? Is that good or bad? Like, do I absolutely need Ilian Ndai now? God knows. I don't know what that means. I don't know if that's good or bad. Right, we got to wrap it up. This could be my team. I will try and update you, of course, on all channels if I do change anything, but I'm pretty content. So I'm pretty much locked in. I think that's my team. think we're going to go for it. If I make a late change from Xavi Simons to Ndiaye, the only reason why I will do it is because of the Graham Potter sacking, and we could just see West Ham completely just all over the shop because they literally don't know what they're doing. So that could be a reason for me just to go for Ilian Ndiaye, because it could be a bit of a demolition job. That's all. Right, we got to wrap it up. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. I really do appreciate it. Sorry for the chaos. It always is this way on Wildcard. Take care. Have a good one, and I will see you in the next one. Cheers, guys. Let me try and end the stream. Bloody